Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. Welcome to everybody on the Zoom call and to all of you listening on Facebook and YouTube. Special to welcome to all the people I see signing in on Zoom. If you have any of your friends that would like to join us, send Jimmy your address, contact information, phone number. We have a huge list. We do send out a nice e-letter every week, so if you'd like to receive it, make sure Jimmy has your information. This evening's session is our self-healing session, which we call our Louise Hay class. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I want to welcome you. The more you attend, the more you listen, the more you get out of it. I've had old-time religious science students involved in this class over the years, and I've asked them, why do you come? These are people who've studied the books, all the teachings and religious science, and they tell me, well, I like hearing you do your thing with Louise Hay, and I know you're talking about principle, and I like tuning in, and especially when you're talking about Louise Hay and her healing work. So these are people who've taken the classes for years with me long ago, and they still tune in. And they say, I'd rather be nowhere else. These are people who understand, as truth students, we're lifelong learners because we know life is about change, and life is always giving us new things to learn. So we're never finished. So, sometimes people will tell me, well, I studied Science of Mind or studied Louise Hay years ago. And that could be true of a lot of us. And I remembered I had a lady in my church in Florida once, and she was, having a miserable experience. And I remember her saying to me, well, I took all those classes, and I think she said like 13 or 17 years ago. And I don't want to be rude to anybody, but that's the answer right there. It requires us to be current and to keep working with the material. And what I'm talking about when I say the material, I'm speaking about specifically our consciousness. Louise Hay presents the teaching in a way that, just about anybody can grasp the teaching. That was the beauty of Louise Hay. She took some rather complex ideas and she put them together in such a way that people could really relate to them. And that was the reason she was so very successful. You hear me quote this, the numbers. If her book sold 65 million copies, which sold more than that, there were over 100 million people who benefited by her book, and perhaps now much, much more than that, because it goes on and it goes on and goes on. Her work has eclipsed the entire religious science group that I was a part of. She's much, much bigger because she brought it to a huge audience. And so I'm thrilled to be somebody that found her all those years ago, and I've been presenting these classes ever since, every week. So it's probably the longest running Louise Hay self-healing group in existence, I would imagine. And it's still fun to do it because there's always new twists on it, and there's always new things happening for me. So I keep learning, and it's really gratifying personally to see how much everybody gets out of the material. So let's get on with tonight's lesson. This is a very typical self-healing class. We just need to keep working at it. It's the point I want to make this evening. No matter whether you're very new or you've been around for a while, none of us are a finished product. I remember I had a teacher, Bill Tolliver, years ago, who used to say, the teacher might be good, the teacher could be great, but the star of the show is the teaching itself. And it is. Louise was fantastic. Raymond Charles Barker was wonderful. We've had a lot of great teachers, but it's the teaching that is the thing. So Louise would say, what you give out comes back to you. So we want to keep on paying attention to what we're giving out. We want to keep on realizing, we want to find the way to connect with Source and give out goodness, give out love, have positive regard for people. We want to keep staying in what we call the healing conversation. So again, I see more people have signed on. Welcome to this wonderful community that's thriving in so many ways. Every Thursday we go over some self-healing principle from You Can Heal Your Life, and sometimes Ernest Holmes. And we usually have time afterwards, as many of you know, to hear from quite a few of you, where you can say hello or, what you got out of the lesson. Or usually I ask, what's it been like being you? Because I'm wanting to train people to pay attention to their inner dialogue, because your inner dialogue is what is creating your life. So if your inner dialogue is expansive and it's life-giving and it's positive and it's good, then that is going to tell me that you're paying attention and you're curbing and you're guiding and you're catching yourself. If you're going negative, you're canceling out the negatives and you're learning to exchange the lesser for the greater. And you're lifting your conversation to a higher place. And as a result, through the law of attraction or the law of mind, your life is starting to change. And it can and it will. And it will change quickly. We get a lot of questions now at the center and comments on social media. There's just dozens and dozens and dozens every day. And we try to comment, we get back to everybody. We have a couple people responding. And if anybody needs to speak to me directly, you can send a message to Jimmy or one of our practitioners. So we're getting a lot of comments, and we're really thrilled. And our mailing list is enormous. And if you need to hear from us, or you want to be on our email list and get our newsletter, just send us some info with your contact info. Most of you, again, know that I'm a big Louise Hay fan, because I've been presenting her material since, as I said earlier, since the book first came out. And she was perhaps our most famous student here in New York. She was a practitioner here, and she became a minister. And, she went around New York City, doing her affirmative prayers, and that became the basis of her book and her little blue book, and You Can Heal Your Life. So she inspired me. I came to New York definitely because I first got involved in the Louise Hay work, which led me to the religious science work. So I've been running some version of this class, facilitating it since 1987, 88. And the subject for tonight, for anybody who's dedicated to a path of growth and expansion, we want to be looking at the idea of letting go and releasing. And releasing what? Releasing the things that are not working to our highest and best. It's important that we start to identify that which doesn't work for us anymore, or as some will say, identify that which doesn't serve us. Years ago, some of you may remember a group called EST. Before that, I think it was called the Forum, or it might have been EST and then the Forum. And later it evolved to be Landmark Education. Many of my friends were taking those programs, and I knew a lot about it. And that program was designed to clear up many of the same things that we do. In that program, they used the term the racket. So they used the term to describe the conflicting opinions that we have within us, the personal prejudices, all the stuff, our grievances, or everything. So that's our racket. You might have opinions based upon your faith, the opinions that you were passed on to you by your parents, the stuff that you acquired since the time you were a child, opinions of other people, our grandparents and our aunts and uncles, and all that stuff circulating around, they refer to as the racket. And it all happens within our own thinking. And that whole racket, that's the term that was used by Landmark Education. In religious science, we talk about our belief system, and we play with the word BS, meaning bologna slices. It means a lot of other things too. But we have a lot of stuff, we joke about it. And for those of you in recovery programs or who are practicing spiritual programs of recovery, you might look at the subject, your belief system, or your racket. In recovery, you might be thinking of it as your old tapes. That's a phrase that's oftentimes used in recovery circles, meaning I have a lot of old tapes that keep looping around and that are preventing me to look at things in a new way, preventing me from being in a new moment. They keep going round and round and round. And they're going to keep on going round and round and round until you stop. Until you stop the old tape, until you change it. Another colorful way of describing this in New Thought Talk is called the train of causation. And let me break that one down just a little. We teach you here in our self-healing classes that we are responsible for our lives. And our lives, for the most part, are a reflection of our thought. Our lives reflect the tendency of our thought. So, if you have a lot of old tapes going around and round, and they're negative, and they're not saying I'm not good enough, I'm not adequate in some way, I'm not smart enough, or I don't, deserve good things, a good life. If you're doing that, what you're knowingly or unknowingly doing is you're causing all of that type of focused thinking to be put out in the atmosphere. And these thoughts over a while begin to bear fruit. So I'm trying to show you what the phrase, the train of causation, it's just a whole body of thoughts that you're not really conscious that you're even engaged in. And it's based upon old learning. So you all know the phrase cause and effect. So that's simple enough. If I keep thinking of myself in a negative way, and I keep the tendency of my thought negative, if I have these old tapes running around or this racket, then I can surely expect unpleasant things, unpleasant circumstances will start happening. They're going to unfold sooner or later in my experience. If you ever hear us speak of this phrase, again, train of causation, or in any class we might have, what we are referring to always is your consciousness and your mentality. If your thoughts tend to be positive for the most part and expansive for the most part, your train of causation will lead you to positive places. The tendency of your day-to-day living will be positive and expansive, and it shows up in your life. So to understand this law, or to understand the law of attraction, you only need to understand that life is always responding to you, to your thoughts, your word, and your beliefs. And it responds to you affirmatively. So when we say you do the work, it's always about you in consciousness. So we invite you in the first step of affirmative prayer to recognize and know that there is this source energy, and you're a part of it. And so we want to keep connecting and remembering who you are. I'm one with the one. I'm an inlet and outlet of it. Whatever it is, I am. So we want to remember who and what we are, and we want to stop whatever it is that we're spinning that's negative. We want to examine our belief system. If we have a racket going on of some kind, and most of us do, what we want to do is we want to break that up. This is essentially the same message that I teach you when I talk about the 4 agreements. In that book too, the author's talking about all the things that we have unknowingly bought into since the time we were born. All the things we've simply accepted. Well, you weren't born with all these tapes and loops, and negativity, and racket. But we're not children anymore. We know that. And if you're on a call like this, that would suggest you've already made a decision that you want to make improvements and you want to thrive. You want a better life experience, and you're interested in stepping up and stepping out of those old belief systems. You want to step away from those old religious systems that keep you in a place where you feel less than, not good enough, or a sinner, or any and all of that. So there's nothing, no God, no energy, or anything that's holding any of us back. That's the good news. And I know sometimes it's tough because people have been fighting over religions and God, throughout history. But there's nobody up there that's rewarding one team at the expense of another and, is playing favorites. There's no force that's working against anyone, anywhere. So as you come into a class like this, you're going to be hearing some things again and again, and they're going to be spiritual reminders, and will help you dismantle the racket or the ideas and old beliefs that might be holding you back. No one's going to force you to do anything. Everything we suggest here ultimately is for you to consider. And so you can consider trading in a lesser idea that you might have for something greater that will take you much further in your life journey. So we trade lesser ideas for more expansive ones routinely. You have everything you need within you that you could ever need. I say this every week, that we live in a unitary field of energy, and that each of us, even though we are unified, are points of awareness. We have an identity within this mind of, this ocean of God, this mind of God. This is aliveness, it's an energy, it's in you, it's source energy, it's in everything, and it's in all of us in some way. And all of us are moving forward. Some are doing it more consciously, admittedly, than others. Many are not very conscious at all. Still, this one life is in everything. Louise was fond of saying that everyone is doing the best that they can, because she knew everyone was a spiritual being and they were evolving at their own rate and pace. Life moves forward by means of all of us. Ernest Holmes, most of you know, said that there's power for good in the universe. And he went on to say, it's greater than you, of which you are a part. And you can use this power. You have this power because it lives within you. So this class is always about self-healing, and it's always about you remembering, or maybe for the first time uncovering, the fact that you have this power, this beauty, this source energy within you that responds to you. It's not that that it wants to or it doesn't want to. It has to. It's what it does. It responds. So where do you beginning your journey? You're coming in, you're going through something. It could be a health issue. It could be financial issues. It could be troubled. You could have had a troubling day. I've had days like that myself. And you begin wherever you are. And Louise would say it's like you're cleaning your apartment. You start in the room you're in. You start with the thoughts you're thinking. Thursdays, I always ask the question, what has it been like being you? Because if you're energetically down and you're just feeling down, and it's, you have to find a way to turn that around, because no one will do that for you. What's it been like being you? And we never ask that question because we're trying to be intrusive in any way, but we want you to notice. We want you to do maybe a quick inventory. That's one of the gifts of the 12-step programs. They have several inventories. And it's never to make you feel bad. The inventories are there for you just to pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're saying. How's life been? Has it been up? Have you been positive mostly? Have you been optimistic? What's bothering you? And if so, can you identify? Can you identify it? Is there something you can do about it? Have you been talking about the good things that are happening in your life? Can you find a way to make a shift away from the thing that's bringing you down to find language to turn it around? So if you're doing your best at this and doing your work, that's all anybody could ask of anybody. If you keep at it, life is going to reflect this work, this positive focus, and your endeavor to turn it around from a more negative to a more positive place. Your consciousness, in other words, is being shaped by this work. Your consciousness is always mirrored in your life. We have an expression, if it's in your life, it's in your consciousness. So if there's a lot of things that are troubling to you, then we don't do our work in the outer. We don't fix people, but we do our work by developing a healing consciousness within ourselves. So it's great good to take these moments out in a discussion class like this and remember the truth, okay? The idea that I am one with the one. I live in this unitary field of this divine energy. I'm filled with it. Whatever it has, I have. The idea is to know that whatever your notion of a higher power is, it's here. It's here in you, operating through you right now. So if you have this awareness, and we want you to keep kindling that, you might keep working with affirmations like I love, accept, and approve of myself, and I am one with the one. Or you might say, this is God in my life. Wherever you are, you can say that, and it will be true. Another one that I was always fond of, and I am still, is God is all that there is, and keep working with that idea that you're looking at this creator, that you're looking at God in everything and everyone. You'll be transformed to the extent you can make that shift and you can see the good and the God in everything. You're going to be elevating your consciousness in ways you can't even understand. And as you do, a lot of the lesser ideas that you hold on to will slip away. Louise said beautifully years ago, when you really love yourself, and she would add, and love life, because she was about loving yourself first and then loving the world you live in. When you really love yourself and love the world and just centered in that activity, she said everything starts to change. That goes back to some of my philosophers that I've loved. Pascal's wager was the idea with him was to keep seeing the good no matter what. And the argument in the wager is, what if it isn't there? And his answer, of course, would be, well, you would have benefited from a life. If you live your life seeing the good, you're going to shape a life where good is reflected everywhere. So that's the thing. We want to heal our consciousness. We want to heal our life. We know that there's a mind-body connection. To the extent we can lift our energy up and come from a place of connection, and release the blame and the anger and the shame and all of those other lesser states of energy, it'll have a direct healing effect on our bodies. So there's much we can do to heal our life, but the most powerful thing we can do is to do the work in our consciousness. It's somewhat of a waste of time to expect getting good from other people. That's not the way it works. All healing, Louise would say, is self-healing. It's all about what your conversation is with you. So if you're doing the work, life is going to reflect the positive things back to you. It's going to reflect your positive consciousness and mentality. So it's good to take these moments out and remember the truth each and every day, to meditate, and to know that Spirit is here, God is here within you. And we say here, it's a journey without a distance. So you sit and you take that pause and you come to the place of realization that this thing is operating, as I say, in me, through me, and all is well. That would suggest if you do this, you're living in connection for the most part, and that type of thinking will develop your consciousness, and it's going to bring forth positive experiences because you're learning to have a positive expectancy in their consciousness. And, if you're expecting good things to happen, if you're seeing the good, the God in everything, then that starts to be your experience. You start to have demonstrations. Those of us who are bogged down by our beliefs or weighed down with, all the worries of life, and we're all caught up in life being a struggle, things are not going to work the same way for us, right? Because if you're coming from a place where you don't think life is going to get better, you don't believe that you're supplied and supported, or you think you're losing in the game of life, you're losing, you're worried about yourself and people, places, and things. This group of people, who are always troubled and worried, they don't realize it, but through their worry and through their fearful thinking, they're bringing forth many of the things that they don't want to have happen in their life. So in a class like this, and in this teaching in general, we're always trying to give you ways and suggestions how to stop that train of causation. You want to interrupt it. You want to just disrupt it. You would stop in the name of love. Whenever you find yourself doing it, and we do. I was there today myself for a little bit. And as soon as you catch yourself, it's smart to just, whatever you need to do, stand up, walk around, take a walk, think a different thought, have some, Louise Hay would always go to yellow roses or things like that. Have an idea that you can switch to an affirmation, physically move, do whatever you need to do. Louise said it's all very simple once. I don't think she ever said it's very easy, but she did say quite a few occasions it's all very simple. And once you understand how simple it is and how it works, then you'll see that there is a simplicity to it. But there is that part of you that has to get involved in your own process. Involved enough to have the willingness to stop the chatter, stop the negativity. I'm always reminded of an AA slogan, which is willingness is the key. We have to be in willingness and have the willingness enough to take a look at what we're saying and what we're thinking and what we're doing. Whenever we find ourselves thinking that, we're missing the boat, we're not good enough, we get in that place of judging ourselves or others, and you're involved in a bunch of negative commentary or chatter, simply stop. Stop without beating yourself up. Stop and just say, I could see peace instead of this. I can see this a different way. You're not going to grow and evolve through criticism or blame. I can promise you that. You're not going to grow or evolve through shame either. The way out of these lesser states of consciousness is a way to, first is to find a way to develop compassion. And obviously, it starts with us. So Louise was on the money when she said it all begins with us. So having compassion for yourself when you're not doing it the way you want to do it. Say, okay, there I go again. This wasn't great. But I resolved to do better, starting here, starting now. So that's having compassion for yourself first and foremost. And maybe in some cases, extreme compassion for yourself where, you might have really made some serious mistakes. And so you have to dig deep to get there. But that's the work. That's where we start. And then extending this compassion to everyone, your family, your circle of friends, and to everyone. And, ultimately she says, I love the world the way it is. And that means every country, every population, every political system. I love the world the way it is. That's a lot to ask. And this, people are, some people are very divided in all they're doing right now. But we're not those people. We're people who understand that, we are one with the one energy. It's in us. We want to love our brothers as ourselves, our sisters. We want to know everybody. When we say namaste, it's a spiritual greeting, and we want to really acknowledge that whoever they are, they're a spiritual entity, and life has brought them to where it is, and they're all evolving and they're growing. The same way you are, same way I am. So as we begin to eliminate this internal racket, or as we dampen it down, diminish it, dismantle it, you'll look out the world and you'll see the world differently. You'll see the goodness more often. You'll see the good, the God, the beauty that's always been there. There's a line from the Course in Miracles that I always like in places like this. When I'm at this point in a lesson, where the Course in Miracles will say, miracles are natural. It's the natural state to be experiencing goodness and beauty. When you're not experiencing that beauty, something's gone wrong. And what they're referring to specifically is you're off track. You've bought into some story that you're less than wonderful or someone else is, and you're not in the here and now. You're in the past or what someone has done or said. And you're thinking badly about them or yourself, and you've lost sight of the perfection that's always there. So what does this have to do with self-healing? Everything. It has everything to do with self-healing. Because you have the power, you have the ability to turn any moment around, even the tough ones. You have the ability to stop spinning the stories. You have the ability to release the need to do it. And oftentimes it's going to be other people who started it. We all know that's true. But the thing is, at some point, you have to stop it yourself, even if it was initiated by someone else. And you have the ability to enter into a new moment if you want to, where you can commune with this inner presence and you can know all is well. Most people have a lot of old stories that seem to live within, a lot of anger that doesn't serve anybody. So we want to take a look at some of this and say to yourself, I release the need for this anger. I release the need for this. And keep saying it until you energetically feel it. Replace these things with positive statements. We want to do the work, even selfishly. We want to do the work so we can be free, so we can have a sense of freedom. Holding on to stuff isn't going to help you. You know that. We know that. So we begin to do the work. We do, and we keep releasing whatever is still lingering within us. And I believe there's probably plenty of work for all of us. But we do it. I know there is for me. And I'm sure many in the call are saying, yeah, there sure is for me too. So in this class, the material is always good. It doesn't really matter if you're new. It doesn't matter if you've been working with the teaching for a long time. There's probably some habit, some way of thinking, or even a person or place or some thing that you really want to take another look at. Maybe there's another way to see the situation or see the person, so you can let go. So each of us are here on planet Earth as spiritual beings to grow and evolve, and we're with the right people. We're learning the right lessons. We're in the right place. Now, that doesn't mean we stay in the same places with the same people forever, but at the present moment in time, you're in the perfect place in time, and you're learning, you're growing, you're evolving. And we're here to pursue a life of happiness and joy and creativity so we can have greater self-expression. And so I know for me, there's many things I still need to work on to release. And I invite you each to search your souls a little bit in this class as people share, to see what might work for you, to see what comes up for you in discussion, with the idea of what I could let go of, what might serve me to just totally let go of. And you want to let go of everything so you can be in a new and fresh moment. And you have the ability to do this. I have the ability to do it too. So I'm going to affirm tonight that each of us have the willingness to release whatever is going on that's not serving us. And I want to hear you say me here. I want you to hear me say to you again, you can see peace instead of this. You can see good instead of whatever it is that's been presenting itself to you recently. You are spiritually equipped and able to do this. And it doesn't matter what they've done. I had a situation this week myself, and I can see peace instead if I want to. And so I declare for each of us that we have the willingness to do that. Here's the thing, we've got to do things like that if we want to get past our past. Because otherwise the past is going to keep being in the present. And and as good as all of us are, we have a tendency to bring in the memories and the old ideas. And so we want to be mindful. We want to be what we call the guardian at the gate. So as soon as you see any of that stuff creep in, just say to yourself, stop. I release the need for this. And tell yourself, I love, accept, and approve of you exactly as you are, and drop that stuff. Release it and know that all is well. Now we're going to turn the call over to you, and we're going to hear what it's been like being you and some of your demonstrations. So thank you very much.